Okay, Utah.
All
We're
right.
gonna have a good time. All good, Utah.
So does he have issues with people, or because I just read quickly there was he been a golden retriever, was it?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
Coming out of the place and
but he was in the house and it was, yeah, it was a little bit of a,
intruder sort of a thing, I think, but.
yeah, well, Steve was trying to tell me that, a golden retriever he knows was coming over, and I didn't get the message, so.
Sure.
He was surprised.
He was like not even in the house, the golden retriever, and then Utah kind of pushed the door open and just sunk his teeth into her, the scruff of her neck and wouldn't let go.
Mm-hmm. Protective border collie.
And Georgia pulled his
mouth
open.
Okay.
That's what kind of freaked us out, though, and then we were,
So-
even if he was protecting, it just seemed a little bit
He'll chase after
scary.
a car that's moving too fast, he'll jump towards it, very, kind of like a border collie, a stray sheep or something, you think. I don't know if it's instinctive.
Right.
And any dog who does a left turn with their face to him,
Yeah,
I think from what I've garnered is
Jump
left
out.
turn. If he does that sort of a thing, like a turf type thing, he goes bananas. Arr, arr, going after the thing.
Right.
And he had just a leather collar that we were running on.
Sure.
And he pulled right out of it, whipped himself in a 360, flipped himself out of it, and jumped on the other dog and then grabbed him
I
and
didn't
gave
know
him
his
away.
collar came off.
Yeah, that's how he got loose, right? I mean,
Sure.
otherwise I got a pretty good rein on him. So I went to this, I guess they call it a choke chain.
Yeah, it's pinch collar.
And, yeah, pinch, I don't know what they call it, but my brother had one that he used on his dog.
Okay.
And
Well, I will kind of.
it does seem to work to some extent. He'll still get angry at certain animals.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, he's
Well, I will-
extremely good natured.
Well, I mean, just say we adopted him in July and he doesn't, and maybe it's our fault we haven't taught him basic commands, but
Mhm.
he won't always respond when you call his name, and he needs to be trained like that, but
Good boy.
he also has an issue. There's something going on his left side, and
back leg.
yeah, so he's really sensitive and he'll growl like he did to me today when I was drying him off. Or yesterday I was drying off his back paw and he just went, and I said, well, thank you. Thank you for telling me that was bothering you, because he didn't bite me, but he's bitten, like in the beginning when we got him. I'm used to having golden retrievers, which is probably not good because I was more in his face. And I wasn't sure if he was growling or purring almost, because he does that sometimes. He's
scared?
real relaxed.
Sit.
And I just turned my head. I was sitting on the floor and he was on the couch, and
Sit.
I was saying, oh, good dog. And then when I wasn't
Just
sure,
sit.
I kind of turned my head like this
Sit.
because I thought he's not going to bite my
Nope.
skull, and he did.
He's not gonna sit.
And
It's
he-
too freaky.
I had a bruise on my skull. So, he can get a little territorial. Like, he'll growl at him when he wants to sleep in the bed with us, and Steve will say, you don't get out of the bed. And when he's just feeling like, because he's usually so cuddly, but then you just don't know, because he growled at Steve, which I think is, obviously not good when he's growling at us. So.
Okay. So we had the incident with coming out and then seeing the golden retriever, correct?
Yeah.
How bad was it? Was it like a full-on, like, was there punctures? Was it
Yeah.
just you grab the scruff?
Scruff of the neck puncture.
He's
Okay.
missing one canine too.
Okay.
So there was just one, but there would have been two.
Okay. Did he shake it out, or did he just grab and hold?
I wasn't
Grab
there.
and hold.
Grab and hold, okay. And then there was an incident where he whipped out of a leash or the collar,
Correct.
but you caught him before he actually got to the dog.
He got to the dog, but I got him off before he did anything. And he was on the back of the dog,
Sure.
not like he was gonna, jump on him on
Sure.
the back, but he was physically going after him. And it was preceded by one of those, just nuts.
Okay.
Yeah.
He
And
hates
then,
going to the vet. He freaks out. Sorry, just.
you're okay. So freaks out the vet. When the person comes in, or like just like he's already like, is he anxious? Is he on edge?
Yeah, completely anxious to the point where he's now, we have to give him some doggy downer pills and some melatonin before he goes in. He used to just the first time he went into just the animal hospital, he pooped all over the place and then flipped in it himself to
That's the
keep
second
everyone
time.
away, right?
That was the second time, yeah.
Yeah.
Now he's better. He'll go in, but they meet him out in the lobby because he's got a history now, and he has not gone to the bathroom in the last 2 times he's gone. So he's somewhat, you know how it is, getting used to it. I presume you know better than me. But he has a lot of trepidation.
Okay.
Will not go in on his own.
Has he ever tried anything with the techs there or the veterinarian?
Well, he will growl if they go, if they approach him in a weird way that he feels is threatening. But generally, if I'm sitting there and they've kind of broken COVID protocol, because it's supposed to be, you pull up to the curb, they take the dog in, and you just stay outside your car, and they let me go in and just stay next to him, and I'll just sit on the floor with him, and he's fine, and not aggressive at all.
I was
But he's
sitting
very-
with him the last time.
very
and
scared.
He didn't chirp or growl at all, but I was telling him he's okay, he's a good boy, he's your friends. I thought that was a good thing, but then we took his muzzle off when we got in the car, and the person from the animal hospital came out because we needed to sign. So, because after he did the dog, we called the vet first thing, and then they said you need to bring him in today to get him tested for rabies, even though he's up to date on all his shots, and then he came back. We needed to take him back 10 days later, which was the other day. And so I was holding him, we had the employee came out and said, oh, I need you to sign something, and I rolled down the window just to crack, and he went berserk. So.
Okay. So we have that.
Yeah.
And then earlier today you were drying him off.
Or yesterday.
And around the left area, the hindquarters, he started to growl.
Yeah.
And then you pulled away, and it didn't escalate.
No, and I didn't know if this is right, but I said, thank you for telling me that hurt. I didn't know, I won't hurt you.
Okay. And then, but previously, you were doing something similar, and I think you said you were in his personal space, and then you turned to give him the back of your head, or something like that?
Yes, and but he wants to, he's okay when he puts his face in your personal space, because he'll walk up to you and lick you, and then the kids Georgia's, he doesn't do it to you.
Yeah.
You get in his face.
Like my brother and I, he doesn't do anything to us. Unless we're playing with him, then we're not really we both are allowed to be in our personal spaces when we're playing. He goes in our personal space all the time and licks us, but other than that, he isn't rude.
That's the way he lets us
They'll
know.
just lie in his.
He does that little growl.
They'll lie face to face with him, and he does not. Which I'm surprised. He doesn't growl with them.
Sure. When that incident where he was growled and then you turned your head.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but you were just in his personal space? And then you just did that in response to like alleviate the
Yes.
pressure? Okay. And then he did bite though?
Yeah.
Was it right after you turned your head, like almost immediate?
Yeah.
Okay, alright, so that makes sense. Okay. Anything else?
No, he's no.
How old is this guy?
3.
Coming up on 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
In January.
Because I saw Saint Bernard mix or something like that.
Yeah, it's a border collie Saint Bernard.
Okay, I was expecting bigger.
Yeah.
That's why he's a mix.
Okay. And you got him in July?
Yeah.
Correct, end of July.
Okay, so in the span of about 5 months, you've had all this stuff happen.
Yeah, he just started, I mean, he was biting, the me being in his personal space was in the beginning, and then there was something, I was holding him because when we were taking him home from the foster person, so it's weird because he's calm, and he looks like he's completely chill, but then because of his hip thing, I think he was sitting on me, I wasn't moving my hands, he was sitting in my lap, and then he just went, like he had leaned on his own hip in the wrong way and then was taking it out on me. So I have trepidation because I don't know to trust him, because if he's looking at me funny, is he okay or is he mad?
Sure.
Oh, but he just started getting aggressive towards other dogs over the course of the last 2 months.
2 months.
Yeah.
Okay, so it wasn't like that initially.
It wasn't that bad. He just wasn't as demonstrative at all.
But does he have any dog friends or no?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
And have you ever tried introducing to another dog?
Yeah.
Oh,
Take
sorry,
her
you
to
meant the
dog
golden
park.
retriever.
He's met the golden retriever before he bit her a few times, and he wasn't
Just normal butt sniffing sort of
normal,
thing.
but
Sure,
yeah, that
fine.
was just a.
We took him to Wiggly Park there, or up on Sheffield, and in the first few months, warmer weather,
Just wasn't into it. But he
it was
wasn't
okay.
growling
He
at other
didn't go
dogs.
after any dogs or do anything crazy. He
Mhm.
wasn't muzzled. Walked around. He
Really
really,
no interest.
well,
Yeah.
and he's not a retriever, right? So you can't throw a tennis ball and he'll run after it and come back. He just looks at it like, "What are you doing, buddy?" Okay, you're gonna play ball. So it wasn't his cup of tea.
What are your goals?
I would like to make sure that he is able to be around us and not have,
Not growling as much, or
Mhm.
not like jumping at dogs and stuff.
Okay.
or people, or just,
When have you seen him jump at people?
he'll
It's just
bark,
that.
he'll bark at people.
Just the vet.
Just the vet.
I thought he barked at some young
If someone's
girl.
wearing a mask,
Uh-huh.
it automatically sets him off a little bit because I think it probably associates it with the vet, but
Oh, he freaked out when Brady showed up with us. My friend showed up
with a mask.
just at the door, and he just Steve had him. But that's not good.
Sure. And now I think my next question is, have you had guests come over when you've had them?
Mhm.
That was maybe one of the only times. So yeah, he hasn't been around too many guests. But in the beginning, we brought him over to my sister's house. He was hanging out with the kids. It was like he was a different dog 2 months ago, and now he's trying to be more of a.
He's getting a little too comfortable.
Yeah, it's a certain
Personality's coming out
Yeah.
a little bit, right?
Yes.
It's okay.
Okay, so people coming into your home, very few occasions, and then one occasion there was a negative experience.
Yes.
Okay.
Recently.
All right. Anything else?
Not that I can-
I don't think so in terms of goals. He's actually pretty good as they go, but we want to make sure we try and curb some of those tendencies, which some might just be innate, right? Protective sort of stuff when someone comes walking.
Yeah,
in.
some of it. So I'm gonna explain and break down the behavior so you understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Because the main thing of it is like when you understand behavior, even if you're not doing any proactive approach to like curbing or controlling the behavior, you know how to be a step ahead,
Mhm.
right? So like if I come into a home and the dog has no training equipment, I can be a step ahead because I know how to work around the behavior, right? So here, with this guy, the bite on the golden retriever, you nailed it. That's in my book normal. Okay, I'm not saying it's acceptable, I'm just saying it's normal.
Mhm.
So there's different personality types. We have dogs that are just non-threatening and they don't perceive threat. You know, so like let's say a golden retriever, for example,
Mhm.
right? They tend to like that. Everybody refers to golden retrievers as like the easiest dog to work with, the easiest dog to own, or whatever.
Mhm.
So like if a golden came out of the home and there was an immediate dog, because they're not threatening and they don't perceive threat, they're just the golden retriever,
Mhm.
right? Nothing would happen there. But then we get other personality types that are more suspicious and or quote slash territorial here, and he comes out, he sees dog, even though he had seen this dog a handful of times before. His brain literally goes from stimulus response.
Mhm.
So if he comes out the corner and he's surprised, his first instinct is kill or be killed.
Right.
Okay, and then that's where that happened. Okay, because that's a territorial response. It's very common. He's not the first dog. He's not going to be the last dog that I've worked with that has had that happen. Okay,
Mhm.
but the good thing is we know that. So now we can be, obviously a step ahead, and we can control or prevent that from happening again. Okay, now removing territorial behavior from him, not going to happen.
Right.
That's his genetic makeup. Okay,
Mhm.
so it's kind of like the people. There's some people that are just very bubbly and can befriend anyone and everyone. And there's some people that are just more cautious and they take more time before they open up to you, and you see that like the more comfortable side of them,
Mhm.
right? There's some people that are just more suspicious and don't trust people, right?
Right.
So it's the same thing for dogs, okay? So now I have a good kind of idea of who this guy is. So that, again, not acceptable, but I would go, okay, with the personality type that we're dealing with here, makes sense, okay? That's why I asked how bad the bite was and whether or not he shook. Okay, because once they bite and shake, that's actually trying to eliminate. Okay, they're trying to like take out the threat, as opposed to a bite and hold where she's trying to control the situation. So even though there was a puncture, you know, like he could have done far more
Serious damage.
Exactly, but the opportunity was clearly there. Okay, so all those things factor in. Okay, so the next thing would be the growling behavior. Have you had that left side of him checked out?
He won't, no, not specifically.
Okay.
I think we just were trying to get from point A to point B at the vet and make sure he had his shots. I'm not sure he would let anyone touch him.
Well,
So, no.
Well, we do have a chiropractor in the family who has also worked on pets, obviously, not just humans. And she said he seems to have some impingement in his lower spine, something in his left leg. He has no limp, obviously. He walks around fine. You'd never notice. But she noticed, and he growled at her when she went to go. She can work his neck and everything, and that's fine. But if she goes down on that lower back area and tries to relieve any or straighten out something, he gives her that.
Sure.
You know.
So there,
Okay.
right, is he's coming from a valid place in his world, right? So the way we work with something like that is, one, we try counter conditioning, which is associating a positive to it, but we also put negative, okay? Whereas if you growl, we correct it, and you don't growl, nothing happens, and you get a reward, okay? There has to be some kind of consequence for any behavior that we don't want, because consequences are meant to stop things, okay? It would also be in a very controlled context, so just because we work on it, doesn't mean anyone and everyone can just come up and grab his left leg, right? If you just do it all hunky-dory, you're gonna get bit, right? Because you just came in. It would have to be a very controlled sequence of like, this is how we approach it, so that we don't get bit, okay? So I'm being respectful of him in the approach that we do if something needs to be done there, but at the same time, we're also putting him in his place and saying, nope, even though this is uncomfortable, this behavior is not acceptable, okay? So like growing up, you know, when we're getting the shots and stuff, right? Kids typically cry or move or whatever, but I didn't start punching people, right? Like if that happened, my mom would discipline me like, you don't punch people. Like, yes, it's gonna suck, but you don't punch people, right? So think of it that way.
And we're not here to hurt you. Is it that trust factor? I don't know if that's.
I mean, it can, but it ultimately doesn't help.
Okay.
Because he's like, this doesn't make me, this hurts.
Yeah.
You know, that's where he's coming from, right? So I can't make him like what's going on here, but we can get him to tolerate it, okay? Of course, smells and all these things come into effect, and there's like, that's its own thing, okay? So that's not anything where like it's about training. It's more about training you and anybody who would be working with that area. If you have to take them to the doctor or something like that to check it out, or if it starts to affect them for whatever reason, obviously someone's gonna have to poke and prod around there, right? So like for instance, I had another client whose German Shepherd used to flip out at the vet and like nobody could touch him. So I had to go all the way to Dalton, more south than Dalton.
Oh my gosh.
Like Munster, Indiana.
Oh boy.
To the vet and take the dog in and like help because they didn't know what to do. You know, but because I knew how to control the situation, they were able to give the dog shots, withdraw blood and all that stuff, and everybody walked out with their fingers. So, it gets more complicated. So that just comes down to technical skill. Most vet techs and veterinarians are all about brute force, control the dog, force the dog down, and that actually escalates the situation. Whereas I'm completely the opposite, whereas I use as little force as possible to control the dog so the dog doesn't feel overwhelmed, okay? The next thing would be the reactivity, which is the lunging and barking on the leash. In my experience, that would be the easiest thing to approach, okay? That's the easiest thing to fix. The hardest thing would be the bullying behavior that he's displaying towards you guys, because that's what I would describe that as, is being a bully. The left leg, of course, because that requires just understanding how to approach him. And then, what was the other one? Oh, people coming in. We have to see how that works out, because obviously with COVID and quarantine and stuff, nobody's having people come over. And that's been a big problem for a lot of people. I've had some clients, dogs, puppies, completely social, love everyone and everything. COVID happened. 3 months later, let's have, grandma over, dog trying to eat grandma. Because there's been nobody for 3 months.
Would it be helpful to hold on to the dog and introduce the person to them?
No, if anything, most likely, in my experience,
intruder.
escalate.
Yeah,
because now you're removing an option. You're removing him being able to run away. So if you put a dog in a leash, that's where a lot of reactivity comes from. is we have 4 responses: fight, flight, avoid, and submission. When you put a dog on a leash, you essentially just deal with fight or flight. So if he's on a leash and you can't run away, all that leaves is fight. Okay? So that, it's something that I deal with. It's not uncommon.
Yeah.
The issue is we don't know on a consistent, and repeated basis of, we've had 100 people come over, but we've only had a handful of negative experiences. That tells me, okay, cool, 5%, right? Easy. Or it's like we've had 100 people come over and 95% of the time, he's going after people. Then they go, okay, clearly there's something there. But we won't know unless you actually have a regular, a flow of people coming in. So it's something that we could cover. It's most likely something I wouldn't stress too much until post-COVID or whenever things go back to normal.
Okay.
And you have people come over.
Yeah.
It's something that can be taught at any point, is what I've been telling people, because it's like, there's no point in wasting a class on this if you're not gonna have people come over.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay, good.
I had one of my friends who used to have a dog walking business and loves dogs. And she's like, well, I'll be the person that comes over and you can see how he acts around me. And I said, I don't want him to bite you.
Sure.
And she said, no, I can handle it. I've been around a lot. I mean, but it still wouldn't really help because it's just one person.
Well, I mean, if he does try to bite and she gets bit, well, now he's like, I got away with it.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
so no, we should.
Yeah, don't do that.
Okay.
No. So like for me, if I came over, I'd have a big old suit on, 60 pounds. Bite me all you want. You're not gonna hurt me. That's the main factor, right? Because I've done that for consultations where I come in with the suit, the dog attacks me, so I can evaluate because we're gonna work on it.
Yeah.
But if I just came in and the dog attacked and went unaddressed and the owner doesn't do anything going forward, well then the kind of repercussion of that is like, you let your dog attack me for an hour so that we get assessed and decide not to do anything about it. So if they keep the dog, now the dog's like, hey, I just got away with that for an hour. So there's a drawback to that, but that's why I tell people, if you're gonna work on this, we're gonna work on this. Like, I need to assess the level of aggression, otherwise it's making a bigger problem, okay? So yeah, I wouldn't recommend that. Now, if he's muzzled, that's different, because that at least keeps your guest safe. But definitely unmuzzled, I feel like would be a liability.
Okay.
Because trust me, there's no going back. Right? So like this here.
Oh, God.
Okay.
my goodness.
Oh, I'm so
This is
sorry. Look at that.
It makes me look cool. 10 stitches. Okay.
Wow.
And this is because I know what I'm doing. So it's a great thing.
Oh, my God.
So, definitely don't want that happening because there's no turning back from that. Okay.
Yeah.
So, he's definitely being a bully. I was watching his behavior right now. There was 2 moments where I saw tension from him. One was earlier when you're trying to get him to sit, and you had kind of just touched a little bit, and I just saw him kind of turn and tense up, and he definitely did not like that. He did it one other time, and he was actually near you, and I think I was sitting down or something. He was just watching me very cautiously. So if you notice, I've just kind of been ignoring him,
Yeah.
right? And I'm actually like controlling my movements a bit, so I'm not as boisterous or big with my expressions, because I feel like he may be a bit of a nervous dog as well, and fast movements or boisterous movements tend to trigger nervous dogs.
No
Okay?
Oh
doubt.
my gosh, that happened today because we were walking in the rain and he hates being out. He hates getting wet. And I realized that I had let go of his leash and I went down to pick it up so fast and he wasn't even facing me. I turned around.
That's a nervous response. Okay? So that's part of where the issues are coming from as well. So out of everything you have here, the reactivity is the easiest one, okay? Depending on the severity of like the territorial behavior of people coming into the home, that's kind of, it could be the simplest one as well, or it can be more complicated. That I don't know, okay? Because of course COVID, not having people go over. The left leg thing, probably the most complicated. Because it takes a bit more technical skill just to know how to maneuver around the dog and stuff like that. And then the other one was the territorial behavior. That one's actually fairly simple too, because it's really just about control and not allowing that to happen. Other than that, the only thing I know you said there's been no tension between him and the children, correct?
Yes.
Correct, okay. Is don't get complacent, because it doesn't mean that it won't happen.
Okay.
Okay? I don't mean to scare you.
Yeah.
But I'm here to educate you, okay? And that's one of the things. So like for instance, this bite, okay, from a Great Dane. What's your perception of a Great Dane?
Sweet.
Right, the gentle giants, right? It's what everybody calls them. And when I was talking to another client, and they're like, a great thing, I thought they weren't aggressive, right? And I go, so people tend to categorize aggression as a characteristic that a dog can or cannot have, okay?
Yeah.
Oh, my dog's not aggressive. Oh, my dog is friendly. Never seen him become aggressive. And I always go, not yet, okay? Because when you meet all the prerequisites, you may see it. So in his case, they had never seen that. It completely came out of nowhere,
Yeah.
right? But it was there. And it wasn't because he was an aggressive dog, he just got stressed out. And my hand was the closest thing. So here.
He's gonna go check you out because you're ignoring him. Don't you think?
Yeah,
Is that what he was
well, he
doing?
already came out a couple times, but I just keep ignoring him.
Yeah.
So
Take that out.
he's okay until he isn't.
Yeah.
Okay, it is the problem. So here, and I get this all the time, where I get clients where I've never seen the dog become aggressive to me. They're only aggressive to strangers. You know, I actually had a client a few years ago. It was a crazy case, and he was like, "Oh, I kept telling him, muzzle your dog, muzzle your dog, muzzle your dog. Every time he's outside of the kennel, muzzle your dog." And he kept fighting it. And then finally, one day, the dog during training turned to him and growled at him. And then he was like, "What?" Right? And I go, "How does that make you feel?" He's like, "I didn't like that at all." And I said, "Muzzle your damn dog." Okay?
Yeah.
So finally he listened. Then they disappeared for a couple of weeks because his wife was like pregnant. She was very close to her delivery date. They had the baby, all that stuff, so then they disappeared for a few weeks. Finally, he texted me one day randomly like, "Hey Jesse, you know, baby's here, the name's blah, 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 blah." And he said, "Also, we put down the dog."
Oh my goodness.
So I was like, called him up and I was like, "What?" Like, I'm just thinking no news is good news, right? So he's like, "You were correct." He's like, I'm very happy that you told me to muzzle my dog. Because what happened was the dog was out on the bed with the wife. He had his muzzle on, and the wife, and he was like near the remote control for the TV. And she went to grab the remote control, and he thinks, because part of his issue with resource guarding, is that he tapped her hand thinking it was a resource. And even with the muzzle on, did a good amount of damage. Okay? And he's like, I don't know what would have happened if he didn't have the muzzle on.
Wow.
You know? So then he's just like, you know, I have a newborn baby, I really can't risk this. So I was like, I'm not one to judge, I'm just here to help, right? So, but that was someone who was just very, and they only had the dog for 7 months, right? And they're just like, never been aggressive to us. He's fine, he's only been aggressive to the other dog. And I'm like, muzzle your dog. You know, there's just something else, like just muzzle your dog.
All day, whatever.
All the time. Whenever the dog is not in the kennel, it's muzzled, okay? Because they would put the other dogs away, so because they had 5 dogs. And they would have him out on his own. And I told him, I understand that the issue's only about the other dogs because this dog actually tried to attack me. And I was like, and they're like, "You've never seen that from him," you know? And I just kept telling him, like, you know, just muzzle your dog, something's not right, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Then that happened, or ultimately, like, the dog went after his wife's hand. You know, but they were in the thought process of would never be aggressive to us. And I'm like, it doesn't work that way. The dog's got a mouth and teeth, they can bite. Okay? So, with that being said, I would just be mindful, okay? I'm not a big fan of just putting my face in a dog's face. I think you mentioned something like he's fine with him going in your face, but if you do it the other way, he doesn't like it, right?
We never know.
Yeah, that's a bully behavior.
He warns.
He's dictating.
Yeah.
He's
He'll warn
going.
you though. He'll growl, you know, that low guttural growl.
Sure.
Yeah, but with me, he didn't give me a chance to get away, or I didn't know. That was in the beginning. I thought he was just so happy, which is another thing. He's stealth. He doesn't change his face really, but he actually was going,
Because tension, it's very quick. And to fill you in on what happened there, when I asked, was the bite immediately after you turned, is because you loaded tension, okay? He was already like, "You're in my face, I don't like it." And when you moved, because it was quick, it triggers prey drive.
oh, because I didn't move away. The only thing I should have done was
Just
move.
turn.
My turn.
Slowly.
No.
I didn't.
Slowly.
Slowly.
Fast motions triggered the response.
So, and that's why I asked him, like, did you move quickly? Like, I'm trying to figure it.
Well, I don't know if it was that quick, but maybe it was quick enough. It was quick, obviously. It was
Yeah.
something.
I mean, that's most people's instinct, right? When they're petting a dog and the dog snaps, the first thing you do is this, right? It's very quick.
Yeah.
So like with kids, you know, what happens a lot of times is I've had numerous kids be bit, you know, when I'm working with, not when I'm working with them, but when they're coming prior to training, and I'm asking questions, and I'll say like, okay, you know, they're playing, all of a sudden the dog gets too kind of aggressive or assertive in the play, it starts to freak the kid out.
Yeah.
The kid screams and takes off, and then
He takes off. Speaking of that, I just thought of something. Now that he's getting more into his own, he's loud and he barks and he sounds like he's being a bully, and it's sweet that he wants attention, but the way that he wants it is, and that's on us too, it seems a little out of control. And then when he's playing, he likes to roughhouse, and then it's funny when he growls sometimes I think we're not training him, I don't know.
yeah, I have to know the context, you know, but from what I'm seeing here, not good. Okay, not good, because that's a lot within a short time frame, to be honest with you. Okay, because it's only been since July. That's the other thing I factor in, is how many of these, you know, if you would have been, we've had them for 3 years, and like, over the 3 years, these things have happened, like, okay, so it's a bit of a time frame. This is just a few months, okay? And, you know, I work with aggressive dogs on a regular basis, so I have a pretty good concept of, you know, when things are just a little bit, you know, too much, and that's definitely a bit too much, okay? Now, I'm not saying I can't help you, but I'm just being honest with you, because ultimately, when you leave here, you have to make the decision of like, is it worth it for us to work with them?
Well, Jesse, I have another question too, is when we first got him, we went to visit Steve's nephew, who's 2, and he was so nice to him. He was licking his face.
There's a reason behind that. So, when people get dogs, it typically takes dogs 2 weeks to a month, okay, to show their true selves. So it's kind of like, if you've ever seen the movie, or maybe you've experienced it, where you live one place your whole life, one school, then you go to a new place, new school, you're just completely socially awkward, right? You have to make new friends, you have to like find your place within the school, right, and all that stuff. It's the same thing for dogs. When you take a dog in one context, put them in another context, they have to feel where they're at within the home. So typically in the beginning, most of the time they're non-threatening, okay? They're, like you said, very sweet, right?
Yes.
But then all of a sudden, they shift. So like, for instance, I had a family that adopted a Chihuahua, and literally within 2 weeks on the dot, the dog went from loving everybody to hating everybody but the mom.
Wow.
And just possessed the mom.
Yeah.
She was the
Alpha?
No, she was the weakest.
Oh.
They gave the dog something to possess and empowered him. So like anybody and everybody outside of the mom, he had a problem with.
Right.
Okay, literally 2 weeks in. Loved everybody prior, and then they said it was like literally he woke up one day and all of a sudden he was a jerk. I'm like, yeah, because he found his place. He's like, you're the one that I can completely control and manipulate and protect and possess. And that's what happened.
So right now, I would not want him to be around this kid that he met before, out of his own.
Potentially, you know, like I don't like he could, so the other thing that could happen, I'm not saying that this, because there's no guarantees, right? Is a lot of times when dogs start to display behavior, everyone that met prior to the behavior happening tends to be in the circle of trust. Okay? Everybody after that, not trusted. Does that make sense? It happens a lot, like when I get dogs that like become aggressive, like let's say you got him at 2 months, and at 6 months he starts becoming aggressive or territorial. Everybody and everything before 6 months, okay. Everybody after that, not okay. Okay? It's super common, but we don't know unless you're actually within the context. I always like to err on the side of caution.
Yeah.
Okay? So, any questions so far?
No, I think I understand.
Okay. So here,
These issues.
the tricky part is, I'm assuming you guys did some research on me before reaching out?
Yes.
Okay, so you know I train with e-collar and prong collar and stuff like that?
Didn't get into all that detail, but I
Okay, well, I'm gonna
felt
explain.
like you would be good for us.
Okay, so I primarily use e-collar, okay? Any dogs or puppies after 6 months, I always train on e-collar. Puppies under 6 months, it's food, real simple stuff, potty training, crate training. Come back when the puppy's a little bit bigger and we'll do big boy training, okay?
Yeah.
The reason why I do remote collar is because it's the easiest to teach, it's the most effective. I can correct behaviors in a non-confrontational manner, right? So like prong collar, if he started lunging and barking at me, you'd have to yank him to correct him, because that's what that's meant for. It's meant to mimic a dog bite.
Yeah.
So it's confrontational. which can sometimes escalate the situation, okay? If we use positive reinforcement, which is food, positive reinforcement is good for things you want to see again. So if you say sit and he puts his butt down, good, do that again. But it's terrible for stopping things, okay? In your case, the only reason why I would incorporate it is because of the left leg. Is I want to create what is called counter conditioning. Currently he doesn't like anybody in the area, let's just assume that. Then I'm pairing it with food. Hey, every time I go near your left leg, you get cheese, and you get like a load of cheese. That he might start going like, okay, like I guess I'll let you touch it, but it doesn't mean he'll like me touching it, because if it's uncomfortable, it's uncomfortable. That's where we come in with consequence, right? So it's consequence if he acts negatively, then it's positive if he doesn't do anything, and that's what's supposed to balance that out, okay? Everything else is pretty much purely negative, okay? So here in the dog world, they don't give each other treats, they don't give each other CBD, they don't console each other, they simply bite each other. If the dog does something he does not like, they simply just bite to correct, okay? I'm not saying that positive reinforcement is bad, I'm just saying here it doesn't really help, okay? So in a case like this, the way I would go about addressing it is the first thing we need to cover is leash walking, okay? Just walking at my side, no pulling. My style of leash walking is very strict. I take one step, you take one step, I take 5 steps, you take 5 steps. When I stop, you automatically sit. This is with no tension in the leash. I don't care what the environment is. I don't care if you're at Oz Park. I don't care if you're at PetSmart. I don't care if you're walking through like a dog parade. Boom, he's on your hip, okay? The reason for that is the healing exercise fixes about 70% of problems, okay? Now, in your case, the only problems that will help to really address is the reactivity and the territorialness, like coming out the home, because that's impulse control. He came out, saw a dog, and just immediately kicked into that gear. When we have impulse control, there's steps. He comes out, he sees the dog, 0, 1, 2, 3. You start to see the escalation process before we see the lunge, right? But right now, he's in his own world, it's just 0 to 10. So the healing exercise helps what I call slow the brain down, so that we don't get those impulsive behaviors, okay? It can help dial down the other stuff, like being in his personal space, but we also just want to be mindful about how we do that stuff, okay? Because if done incorrectly, like he's gonna trigger, okay? Like it's like having a stranger's face in your face. Like, do you want that? Right? You know, but as a human, we've been taught not to escalate things. We back away, hey, get out of my personal space. But if that person were to keep coming into my space, I would defend myself, right? Some people would, some people don't. Dogs, a lot of times, you know, it's the same way, but in his case, he's one from experience that will defend himself. Okay, so you want to keep that in mind. Leash walking takes about 2 classes, and I go, what does it fix? Okay, if you're like, hey, he seems calmer in the home, right? If we don't see any reactivity, or if we do see reactivity, how is it in comparison to what it was before? That's what's going to start dictating how we progress further. Okay, so after the first 2 classes, and I always catch up with you, like tell me how's it going, and then we'll adjust things and tweak things as we go along. Okay, now I don't really know how this is going to work out here, but when we start to put a dog, and it's typically like this personality type, under what we call pressure. Okay, pressure is when he's being remoted. It's a level of discomfort, and we're making him do something. This is not a request. This is a command, right? Is we might see protest. Okay, and protest can be as subtle as pulling at the leash. Protest can be growling. Protest can be even coming after the handler. Okay, so that's where they used to see that you already have a muzzle. So most likely in the beginning, he would be muzzled during that training just to keep yourself safe. Sure. So for instance, I worked with a client, and I thought it was going to be an easy peasy, straightforward case. And in the first lesson, the dog kept jumping and like just literally punching her with his muzzle, okay, and like almost knocked her down. Like it was really bad. Now we worked it through, but it took us a lot of time. I had to give her like 3 weeks between classes to give her time to practice, but we ultimately worked through all that stuff. But it's something that just came completely out of nowhere. And this was a dog that I did not think it was going to happen with. This personality type, because he's already got that bully, he's already got that like I'm going to set boundaries and like growl at you and like all that stuff, is where I go, okay, there's already some kind of tension before. I would expect to see it there. Okay. Now again, with e-collar, it's non-confrontational because he doesn't know where it's coming from. Okay. So once we work him through it, there really shouldn't be any issues, but only time will tell. You gonna say something?
Yeah, but I forgot.
So So we're
Just
gonna work
rules.
with the e-collar as well then? So
Hey,
do we keep the e-collar on there and we also use that
So
stimulus?
you use the e-collar when you need it, right? So like every time you take them for a walk, because we know we're gonna see reactivity if we see dogs, you're gonna wanna have that collar on, okay? So the e-collar, people think of it as a shock collar, okay? That's an incorrect term. That's a term that's been created through positive reinforcement trainers to deter people from using the tool. They'll say shock, torture, hurting, whatever, right? So, have you guys ever been to a chiropractor or a physical therapist?
yes.
Have you ever had STEM, the machine that moves your muscles?
No.
No? Okay. So at either one of those places, they have what's called a TENS unit, okay? TENS. You can also buy them at Walgreens now. If you go to Walgreens, go in the back section, it looks like a little bone, and you put it on your lower back, and it sends a slight current that moves your back muscles to alleviate pain or to relax them, okay? It's the same technology. So it's not like a taser. You're not sending a current through his body. It's a centralized current here that only moves the muscles that it's making contact with, okay?
But it's uncomfortable.
Correct, yes. So going back to what I said earlier, right? If you do something he doesn't like, what does he do?
What does he do?
Mm-hmm.
He'll let me know. He'll growl.
You'll growl, right? And then what may potentially happen after if you don't,
He'll bite me.
he'll bite, okay? Physicality is what that is, okay? So the reason why other methods don't work or either at all or as well is because food, like there's nothing to deter the behavior, right? So growing up, I was raised old school, I was spanked. If I talked back to my mom, if I didn't do my chores, or if I like went out without permission, spanking for everything, right? To deter those behaviors. That's the same thing for the dog, right? If you do something or another dog does something he does not like just walking in front of his front door,
Yeah.
physicality.
I remember what I was gonna say.
Uh-huh.
He does not know, no, or he refuses to know it. I think it's our fault, but he won't stop, he won't come. I mean, he ran out of the house one time in the beginning and he won't
Sure.
respond to his name. He just kind of does what he wants and sort of gives people the finger when he wants to, which is
Okay.
hard to believe. Sometimes you want to think he's only nice and only see everything through rose-colored glasses, and he comes up and he hugs me and he snuggles with me, but
Sure.
he won't.
So, it's not that he doesn't understand, or actually that he's ignoring, no. If I told you something in Chinese right now, would you understand it?
Well,
Okay?
yeah.
Dogs don't speak English. Okay? He will never by definition understand what a word means. He creates associations. And what would happen is if I say no and I pair it with a consequence, like the dog version of spanking, he goes, well, when I hear no, a negative follows, but if I stop the behavior, nothing happens. You see that? That's how he starts to interpret how to respond to the word no. Okay? So, and I've seen people, I saw a person yesterday, like literally get on their knees and scold their dog, no, you don't bark at people like that. Like I was walking on Lincoln Park, and the dog started barking at like a rollerblader. And she goes, no, you don't bark at people like that. It's a bad dog. And I was just sitting there like, you know, the dog has no idea what you're saying, right? So, it's very common, you know, because we're so used to using words to communicate, but that's just not how dogs talk. Okay, they growl, they grumble, they bark, and they bite. You know, maybe like a handful of other things. Okay, so here, I would use the leash walking definitely for reactivity, so we don't get lunging and barking. It'll help with impulse control so that we don't get any preemptive lunges coming out. We also just might put more structure there, more direction, so that he's contained, where if you come out, there's a dog there, he doesn't just lunge. Then the next thing would be, you know, maybe covering that left leg, and it's really, that's like a class in itself, like this is how we work around it, muzzle and all that stuff, how we can condition, and then that's something that you just do at home. To see if we can just get them more comfortable with it. Okay, now I can't make him like it, because again, if it hurts, it hurts. But at least so that he's not being a problem for other people who are trying to check it. The other thing would be just educating you guys on just dog behavior. Okay, so one thing is you guys empower him because you just give him affection for no reason. So every time he's come up to somebody, you just pet him. Okay, several times, right? So that puts him above you, because you're catering to him. Okay? Like he just walks up and you're like, hey bud, right?
Right, he
Like
exists.
this.
Look,
Yeah.
and now he's gonna tell you to give him more.
Nope.
Right?
Say no. It's okay.
So then,
He understands go on though. So if you say go on, he'll go on and he'll go into his own little
Only
place
when
to
you
lay
say
down.
it to him though.
Mhm.
When I say go on, he turns tail right away and
Sure.
goes and lays down somewhere.
But when I tell him to get off the bed, he just looks at me like,
Sure. Now here, once I brought that up, you pushed him away.
Mhm.
He came back, started demanding more, and then you started petting him again.
Oh yeah, it's
It's a habit. It's unconscious.
Yeah,
It's a
I
subconscious,
understand.
right?
Yeah.
It happens all the time. So the reason why I point that out is if you're going to be an authority figure, you can't be his buddy. See that?
So I can't pet him anymore?
No, I'm saying not that you can't pet him. I just choose when I pet him. Right? So like, let's say he's doing something for me. Right? Like I said, sit, and he sits, and he holds that sit for 5 minutes. Good sit. That's
Then
fine.
you don't pet him. I see.
Right? As opposed to, hey, pet me, sure. Right? Because that's bully behavior. Okay? And then if you don't give it to him.
disguised as pal behavior.
Yeah, and now he's gonna push in more, right? And then he might turn away, but then he goes to find somebody else. Okay? So it's a little detail, but that's like the stuff that people don't see. Like this whole entire time I've ignored him.
Uh-huh.
You know, like I've not given him any affection, so I maintain some level of power because he's like, all right, this guy just doesn't care about me. Okay?
Uh-huh.
So here, if you're petting him for no reason, and when he tells you, and then you're in a situation where it's like, hey, you need to stop this, and he's like, what are you talking about? I tell you what to do. I tell you when to pet me. And you're gonna tell me to stop? No. That's what that becomes.
Uh-huh.
Does that make sense?
Yes, completely.
So it requires, it's not just like dog training, it's a lifestyle, right? I teach you how to have a dog like this, right? And it's up to you to decide like, okay, sure, we'll make these changes to keep this dog. Because I do get families where they're like, we don't want to have to do this. We want to have this kind of dog. And I'm like, that's not the dog you have, you know?
Yeah.
So if they're not willing to put in the work, like I'm not going to try to sell them on something. So that's just being
Right.
realistic with you, okay?
I appreciate that because I feel like I was so frightened when he bit the golden retriever because someone that grew up with, you just don't, I understand that
No.
we get in dogs' faces and you can't treat another dog like a golden.
Gotta leave
And
that out.
it's not because they're jerky dogs, they're just not that way.
Mhm.
And
Nope.
I'm afraid that if we don't train him seriously and follow instructions,
Mhm.
your instructions, he's gonna hurt, if he bites one of the kids, we have to put him down. And it's cute that he lets them go up into his face, but I'm always horrified that he is gonna bite them.
Mhm.
And it's sort of disrespectful of the dog because we're putting his life in danger. And he's that's the way I feel. I don't know if I'm being.
No, that's correct, right?
Okay.
Because we know better.
Mhm.
So like, for instance, going back, that's very good, what you just said is very good, okay? Because that's why I always stress people. Because the notion today is dogs don't bite people,
Mhm.
okay? And if they do that, you put them down.
Mhm.
And let's say I have an owner and they're like, oh, Jesse, my dog bit me, and put them down. And I'll go, what happened? They're like, oh, my dog was eating, I picked up their food bowl, they bit me. I'm like, well, that's your fault. Would you want someone grabbing your plate of food while you're eating at a restaurant? They go, no. I'm like, well then, why would you do it to your dog?
Mhm.
Right? So there's certain things that I go, I get it, that are instinctual to them. Like I said, the whole front door thing, I said that's normal for a dog, but not acceptable in our world.
Mhm.
Okay? So like now that I've educated you, and I said, I don't like the idea of your children putting their face in his face, even though we've not seen anything, right?
Mhm.
And let's say you leave here, you don't do training, they continue with that, he does bite one of them, and then you do put them down. Whose fault is it?
It's our fault.
Exactly, right? So that's how that works. So here, it's, yes, he has to behave a certain way, but at the same time I'm going, but we have to understand that, we cannot make him like people putting their face in his face. Does that make sense?
It does.
Let's say you're walking outside with him, and a kid runs up, because this has happened to me during training, and just runs up and grabs your dog. What do you think is going to happen, right?
It's happened before, but it was in the honeymoon
earlier-
phase with
yeah.
He's had kids,
he's had kids in his
with
face.
masks just kind of hanging on him in the street, right?
Sure.
And he has not done anything. He's
Sure.
allowed them to grab onto him and do
Yeah,
whatever.
Knowing
No
stuff
muscle.
that I've seen, I stop that.
Yep.
Because let's say he's fine with it. But let's say it's like with people. If someone, let's say, is picking on you or calling you names or harassing you over time, and then one day what happens?
You just snap.
Exactly, right? So here, I'm not trying to make you paranoid, is it's a thing with a dog, right? And I've had this happen where the owner goes, my kid used to play with my dog all the time for 5 years, no issues. And then one day the dog put the kid in, yeah, maybe because he got tired after 5 years of the kid pulling at his jaws, pulling at his tail, and calling out, crawling all over him. That makes sense. And then who pays for it? The dog. So yes, you're correct that there's some unfairness involved, but that's why my job, I look at it this way. I look at what you want and need. I look at what the dog needs, right? And I find that middle ground and I educate you and I go, these are things that I would not do because there's no guarantee. People think you train the dog, you make them a good dog, and they should know to be a good dog. It's not how it works. Like not many humans do that.
Well,
We need to be smarter.
It was when, right after this happened, that I thought, this is aggression that I've never seen before.
Mhm.
Maybe I used to be terrified of dogs. I was bit, I was forgetting this, I was bit twice. But I was concerned, Jesse, because I had no control over him. Granted, he was biting a dog, and that's his instinct, but I couldn't get him off this golden retriever.
Mhm.
And that, I thought we were gonna have to put him down.
Mhm.
I was horrified. I almost didn't even want him in the house. I didn't want to be around him
Sure,
because he
sure,
wasn't
okay.
listening. And I hope that we can get to a point where
Yeah.
he will.
So with the e-collar, okay, we don't even get there.
Mhm.
The best kind of control is preventative control, which is partially controlling him and educating you, right?
Yeah.
The next, and I educate people for, just as they go about their life, but also like when life happens. And it's like, oh crap, we didn't plan for an off-leash dog running right into our personal space.
Mhm.
E-collar allows you to disengage the dog.
Mhm.
Okay, and I cover all these things with you.
Okay.
Because I train for the real world. I've
Yeah.
heard almost everything that's under the sun. I very rarely, if ever, get thrown for a loop. Okay? So, it's just how much work are you willing to put in?
Mhm.
Okay? So, because I have a client coming in 6 minutes, is in terms of training collar, the one I recommend for him, and Maria will send you this information, is the Dodger 1900S Black Edition. Okay? It's the most powerful collar. The reason why I'm opting for that is because of obviously there's been aggression, and I don't want to gamble with having too low of a power that you can't override the aggression, okay, if that were to happen. So that kind of just removes that option. We're like, okay, we got the highest power collar. All it means is his number is going to be lower than if you were on a lower power collar, because it's more output, okay? In terms of length of time, this isn't something, because I have 3, 6, 9, and 12-week programs, okay? And it all comes down to what the owner wants to achieve and like the goals and all that stuff, right? There's a lot of stuff to work on here. We have the reactivity, we have the territorial behavior, we have potentially people coming into the home, and again, that's a variable for you, whether or not you want to do this now or later. The hind quarter, the left leg, and then, what was it? There's another one in there.
Barking, aggression,
I feel like there was one other thing.
being in his face and him
Being in his face,
being a bully.
right? Now, of course, I'm going to educate you guys on that, like what's appropriate and inappropriate and all that. But the other thing is you need control. Okay, so leash walking has to happen. We always cover recall because the dog should know recall. So if he's like chasing after something or gets off the leash and all that stuff, you want to make him to be able to come back.
Yeah.
The other thing would be stationary control, which is go here, don't move. Okay, so like let's say guests are coming over and I can again make him like your guests. You can at least be like, all right, you know what? We don't want you bothering the guests. Go over there and you don't move for the next 3 hours. Okay, you can get that level of control.
Wow.
But you have to do the homework. Okay, I can only take you as far as you're willing to go. So if let's say I tell you his number and my collar goes to 127, just to give you a reference, in increments of 1. If he becomes reactive and I tell you, and we're trying all the numbers, and I go to 127 to stop it, and then you come back in a week and like, how'd it go? You're like, Jesse, it was terrible. And I'll go, well, how'd you go? You go 50. I'm like, well, 50 is not 127, right? So now that you're not willing to go to that extent, you're gonna get stuck. Okay, but we do everything, we do a lot of things first to see what are our options, right? We don't just jump into the straight 127 to stop the behavior because it's too harsh. We start low, we work our way up, okay? I educate you on how to use the tool, both proactively and preemptively, as well as just, with the standard obedience stuff. Because I've had clients where the dog just took off on them and they had to think on the fly. and it's not about obedience in the moment, it's about how do I make my dog return using this device, or how do I make my dog stop this behavior using this device. Because the last thing you want to do is put your hands in there, because that's a good way to get bit, okay? So I would put you more in the 9 to 12 class realm, okay? The 12 classes gives you the most control. We have more time to cover the behavioral stuff, okay? I always do prioritize behavior over obedience, because the obedience can be taught at any point. The one thing that has to happen is the leash walking, okay? Because that's going to be for the reactivity stuff and the impulse control.
Yeah.
And when we talk about full control, we're talking about full off-leash control. Okay, the reason why I push to that level of obedience is because it's a high level of discipline. I really don't care about the obedience. I care about the control it gives the owner. Okay, if you do the 9-week program, we wouldn't get as far as 12. But again, we prioritize the behavior stuff. That's like kind of the variable, because if we spend more time on like reactivity, it gives us less time to work with other stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
In terms of scheduling stuff, Maria handles all that. She would pick a time and everything, you would let her know. When we work with him in the beginning, I'd have him muzzle him, have him muzzled at all times.
Sure.
And as we progress and we start to learn more about him, then we can start to remove it and all that stuff.
No problem.
Okay?
Great.
Questions?
When you use the e-collar, and I know we're going to talk about this, but does he have the e-collar on at all times, so
No.
it could have prevented? Okay.
Only when you need it. So like if he's a great dog in the home, right? And then we know if we don't put his left leg and we don't put our face in his face, there's no problem, then you're good. But like let's say he starts like, possessing the couch and growling at you when you approach him on the couch or on the bed or something. I think you mentioned something on the bed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then that's when we start thinking about within the home as well. Okay? Until we get the level of control we want, and then it can potentially go away. I get really, and this isn't the worst case, but I get really bad cases where the dog is collared 24/7.
Oh,
Okay, because they're just every little thing just sets them off.
Yeah.
Okay. The most common question I get is, when does the e-collar go away? In my book, it doesn't. When you need it. Okay. So think of that e-collar as a cop on a collar. So like with humans, we drive better when the cops are around. We don't run that red light or do a rolling stop, or we go the speed limit because you don't want a ticket. Same thing for the dog. When that collar is present, he's going to behave himself. So it's not that you're always having to use it. It's just the presence of it puts him in a state of like, okay, can't get away with my nonsense. So I'm going to behave myself. It's called opportunistic behavior. It has nothing to do with the training. It has nothing to do with my skills as a trainer. It's just if there's no form of control or means of reinforcing control, he's going to try.
Yeah. Thank you. I have a lot more questions, but we can talk about it next time.
Sure, yeah. So Maria will get in contact with you. She'll give you a form, she'll give you a breakdown of the prices, and she'll send you the information for the 1900S block. You can just order that on Amazon.
Great.
When you do order it, read your manual, fiddle with it. Don't put it on him, just try it out, whatever. Test out your remote. It should go in increments of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to 127. If you see it goes from like 1 to 35 very easily, and it's just kind of jumping, you have a dud. Send it back. Okay, send it back. Let us know so that we can push back. Because I've had clients not test out their collar, and then they show up and it doesn't work, and then it's just wasted time for everybody.
What's the percentage of people that have dud collars? Or
It's
dud
super rare.
runs?
It's super rare. It's like 0.5%.
Oh, nothing.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so 99.5% chance this thing will go 1, and it's digital, I assume then.
Correct, yeah,
So it
it's
just
an
goes
LED
1, 2, 3,
screen.
4, 5, 6, 7? Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
And as long as you see the first numbers go normally, it's fine. Because it's pretty obvious. As soon as you turn it, it's just jumping all over the place.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Other than that, I don't have a cookie cutter approach. Other than the first class, we're going to cover leash walking stuff,
Yep.
and then from there it's just play it by ear.
Great.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
We'll be with you during all the training. Are you training?
Yes.
us?
Yeah. So everything's verbal instruction now. So I coach you, so you're doing everything from start to finish.
Good.
Okay. So that you're really developing your skills. We've done recording stuff, so if you want to see how training works, you can feel free to go to my YouTube channel. Lesson ones are always really good to watch because no one knows what they're doing.
Right.
And you can see just how effective it is. Okay?
Oh, great.
So as long as you do the homework, you
Yeah.
should not have the issues. Variable being his behavior.
Great.
And then if anything pops up, like if, like let's say something happened, like Jesse, this is concerning, we need to address it, we can take a tangent. The first class, as long as the first class happens, I can pretty much just kind of jump around. But we'll see just how this
Sounds
goes.
great.
Good. Okay. There's
Okay.
things we were gonna do at home, like Brad, he's on the furniture, we let him on the furniture. I feel like that's one of the things we shouldn't do. You can let us know.
Sure, for now, I would just, be mindful of his left leg, not put our face in his face.
Okay,
And I like that he's on the pinch collar. That pinch collar is fitted too loose. It should be a bit more snug. So what we'll do is probably send you a video so you can get that fitted correctly.
great, okay.
Easy to fix, but